manifesto in 1944, sorry, the main of which was to demand the independence of Morocco. So she was a strong woman. This Amina, another woman, she's Amina Loh, and you can see this is her picture. She was born in the north of Morocco, and she attended first of all the Spanish school because Morocco was divided into two and ruled by two powers. And she was educated, and she was later a teacher and director of a school, and she would go and ask students to go on strike, though she was working under the supervision of the French administration. She would encourage girls to go on strike. And she was also a writer in some magazines and in Morocco in some newspapers, and she calls for not only sending girls to school as a right for them, but also she was calling for the resistance of the French colonialism. She was a very courageous woman, and she was threatened by the Spanish authorities as well as the French, but she didn't surrender, and she continued her struggle. Another woman, that's concerning the nationalist women who fought politically and intellectually, but we have also on the other side, we have women who took the arms, who smuggled the arms, and who participated in the armed resistance. And this is one of the examples. So Fatna Mansari, she's a woman. She was in Casablanca. Have you heard about the movie of Casablanca? Have you ever watched it? Casablanca is a American movie in Casablanca. So but she belonged to a poor family, and that's may raise a question why women who struggled politically belong to the rich families, and women who were involved in the armed resistance, they belong to the poor families. That's a question. We use the poor, we push them to fire. I think that's maybe true in America. Sending troops, you may question people who go to Iraq and Afghanistan, and so the rich send their children to Yale and Harvard University and MIT, and send in the poor and the less to Iraq and other countries. It may be the same situation. I don't know. That's for discussion. Yeah. Anyways, she participated in the armed resistance, and she would go and sit bombs for the French, and she would also go and smuggle weapons and under her clothes. She would also host those people who were injured or anything and take care of them. But she was a courageous woman. And there's also Zohra Toreshi. I don't know, whenever I see this picture, you compare the pictures, how she was very beautiful there, and yes, that reminds me of a very beautiful poem which goes like, beauty is but a flower which wrinkles will devour through time. And you see, the beauty here is devoured by time. So some people just say our biggest enemy is time. Anyways, this woman wanted to join a group of militant resistance, but they refused. I remember at that time it was so hard to join men and to do what men were doing. They refused her to belong to them, to this. So what would she do? She would just go and create her own group of resistance, and she, the beginning, that she would just go and set fire in some stores, the French stores, that was a kind of retaliation. And later on with her husband, because her husband was a taxi driver, and he would just smuggle weapons and take resistance from one spot to another. And also she played a pivotal role in the resistance. And all this I'm taking it from the book of this writer. She's just see. Baker Allison. Okay, if you want to just go to it, it's Voices of Resistance. You can go to it if you want. So this is for the resistance, that is political resistance and the armed resistance. But this doesn't say that there weren't overlapping roles between them, between these women who were in the armed resistance and those who were in the political resistance. There was an overlapping, and sometimes there was cooperation between them, because their main goal was one, is to fight the colonialism, French, be it French or Spanish. Now that was during the colonialism period, that is French and Spanish. Now this struggle, when those women, when Morocco gained its independence in 1956, they were surprised, because those women, the nationalist women who were educated, they held very important positions in the government. And those women, the poor women, were again were sent home to do their domestic roles of sweeping and taking care of children and all that. That is to say, they were marginalized, and they found that their country for which they sacrificed denied the rights, the basic rights of those women. From that time on, there was a new struggle. So that's the second part of my lecture. There is the next half of struggle against colonialism, as it were. I said I was already in a book about feminism, and they would say that as colonialism colonized people, they say also man had colonized women, and she should get rid of him. I don't know to what extent that is true, but anyways. So starting from 1956, there was another struggle against the patriarchal society. And here I think we have to differentiate between Islam and patriarchy. Patriarchy exists everywhere. You may go to Asia, here in USA, you may find in some regions, you may find patriarchal society in which the father, the son, is the center of everything. I think that's this notion is relative. So, talking here about a very influential law, which is the Modiwana. The Modiwana is the family status code or personal status code. This one, the first Modiwana, was enacted in 1957 by the king, so to guarantee some rights for women. But that was insufficient and was not enough for women. And then in 1993, there was through all these years, there was a struggle for women to gain their independence. Group activists, women, we have a very, very active society in Morocco. So they gathered 1 million signatures, and they handed it to the king to amend the Modiwana, the personal status code. And the king, he would just make few amendments, changes to the Modiwana of 1993. It was not enough to guarantee more rights for women. So the women continue with their struggle to gain more independence and more rights. And in 2004, with the new king, when he assumed